very red. O,
Just
di
take a
ba?
laugh now.
Ayan. Ang lakas maka ano, evil laugh. Sayang wala si ano,
Yeah.
AFK daw siya. Wala siya ngayon. I can do my evil laugh na. Red na red. So, red na red din tong topic na to kasi ang dami na naman din nitong memory work. But if you guys are diligent enough and you try to study it over and over again, you guys are going to memorize this, no problem. Okay? All right, so we're going to talk about the maturation series. This is another topic in hematology that is oftentimes neglected by a lot of students because they're much more focused on some other subject matter in hematology. But this is important, another important discussion. And we're going to begin with the RBC maturation series. Okay? So let's start first with the nomenclature systems. So similar to blood banking, where there is a nomenclature system in the RH blood group. We also have it here in the RBC maturation series. Um, I need you guys to understand it because sometimes you're going to have different nomenclatures, and if you forgot which one of it is that you're being asked, then you might forget. If you just memorized one nomenclature system, then you might be in trouble in the exam. All right. So there's three. Right. We have normoblastic, the erythroblastic, and rubliblastic and erythroblastic. Now, the one that parallels the WBC maturation series, which we'll talk about later, is the rubriblastic system. You'll see later why when we look at it one by one. Okay? But right off the bat, if we're using the normoblastic nomenclature system, can somebody tell me all six cells in the RBC maturation series from youngest to oldest? Okay, Adrian, you're the only one conversing with me. Let's start with you. No,
Are you using the
normoblast,
normoblast first?
erythroblastic. Sorry. Sorry, normoblastic muna
Normoblastic.
pala. Normoblastic. Sorry, normoblastic.
Pronormoblast, basophilic normoblast, polychromatophilic normoblast,
Mm-hmm.
orthochromic normoblast,
Yun.
reticulocyte, then erythrocyte.
Uh-huh. Let's see. What about erythroblastic? Can somebody else answer for me? Aside from Adrian, what about erythroblastic? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, Anna Jamema Athing.
Search for erythroblastic, proerythroblast, basophilic erythroblast, polychromatophilic erythroblast, orthochromic erythroblast, reticulocyte, and erythrocyte.
All right, let's see. Okay, so you guys are both correct. So if you look at it closer, everything is almost similar, right? Everything is almost similar. All right, so you don't need to remember much. But when we go to the other one, the one that parallels WBC maturation series, that's the time a lot of students get confused. Okay, so what about for the rubriblastic nomenclature system? Youngest to oldest. Anybody? Anyone? Anyone? Anybody? Muli? Nako. Umaya ka na, Adrian, pag walang nakaano. Ayan, Joanna Baltar.
um, rubriblast,
Mm-hmm.
rubricite, metarubricite, polychromatic, and then erythrocyte.
Okay. Medyo incomplete yung second to the last, but I would still accept it. Alright?
Polychromatophilic or erythrocyte.
Alright, so this is the correct one. So she did wonderfully. Fantastic. All right. So you guys are familiar with it. I don't need to discuss how to remember it. Obviously, you guys are quite familiar. All right. We are well versed in the in the stages of the RBC maturation series. Now, the term for an abnormal RBC precursor found in patients with megaloblastic anemia. That's one that we need to know. Abnormal RBC precursor found in the patients with megaloblastic anemia. These are known as megaloblasts. All right? Megaloblast. You're going to encounter it when we talk about megaloblastic anemia versus non-megaloblastic anemias. All right? Okay. Now, let's move on to specifics. There are two progenitor cells for... Sir, nawalan po ako ng signal. Okay. All right. It's okay, Aljoy Aquino. Nobody's asking, but thank you for sharing. We love it. We love it that you guys are oversharing. I love the fact that you try your best. You try your best to attend the class. Don't worry. The reason why we're they call this, we are doing a live stream for you guys is that when you guys need a recap, you can just keep on looking at the sorry, at our lecture class. Okay? Is my voice froggy? I'm sorry. Is my voice froggy? I think my voice is froggy. All right. Anyway, it will warm up later. All right. Now, let's go with the progenitor cells for normal blast. Earlier we talked about progenitor cells. So, hopefully you remember what the progenitor normal blasts are. So, before we continue to this, before we have this, or let's go here, before we have this, we need to have progenitor cells first. All right? Okay? So before we have pronormal blasts, this one. So we start with normal blast. Look at it. So before normoblastic stages. Okay? Before the normoblastic stage. Hence the term pronormoblast. Before you get a pronormoblast, you're going to have two more cells. These are stem cell lines. And they're known as BFU and CFU. So in here, on the third one here, I don't know if you can see the line that I'm drawing here. After CFU, you're going to have pronormoblasts. But before that, you have BFU, which is burst-forming erythrocyte. Burst-forming unit erythrocyte. It becomes colony-forming unit erythrocyte. And then pronormoblast, normoblasts. Okay? Cool? Cool beans? All right, let's continue. Now, how many days does it take for each RBC progenitor to... Sorry, how many days does it take for each RBC progenitor to mature to become the next stage? So it requires a week for BFU to become a CFU and another week for CFU to become a pronormoblast. Another week also for pronormoblast to become a normoblast. So basically, all in all, from the earliest stem cell line, okay, it would take probably 6 weeks. All right? That's why in severe cases of anemia, it takes a very long time for a patient. It takes a very long time for a patient to recover from the effects of anemia, if corrected. All right? There are cases that you can correct. There are cases that are genetic. But for those cases that can be corrected, it would take several weeks for the whole body to recover by itself without any intervention from transfusion. Right? So medicines would probably correct it, and then it takes 3 weeks for the body to create pronormoblasts, normoblasts. Okay? So don't forget about that one. That one is put a star on it if you want. All right. Now, how many RBC RBCs are theoretically produced from one multipotential stem cell? Ayan na naman tayo sa multipotential stem cell na yan. Baka mamaya hindi kayo familiar pa rin. So please refer to our previous lectures if you get confused with the terminologies. Okay? So theoretically, you can produce 8 RBCs from one stem cell line. All right? Multipotential stem cell. All right? And when morphologically identifying precursors, RBC precursors to be specific, you should take note of 5 things. All right? When we move on later in discussing peripheral blood smear, maybe today or tomorrow, when we discuss the peripheral blood smear, you're going to notice several things. You need to take into consideration several things. Number 1, the nucleus to cytoplasm ratio or cytoplasm ratio. Number 2, the chromatin pattern. Number 3, nuclear diameter. Number 4, the presence or absence of nucleoli. And number 5, the cytoplasmic color. All right? These are the things that are important because you're going to see it later today. You're going to see it later. Right? Now, based on size, differentiate an immature cell from a mature cell. How can we differentiate the size? I'm not asking for specific measurements. I'm asking in general. How do we differentiate mature from immature cells? Anybody? Anybody in the peanut gallery? The peanut gallery talaga, no? Okay, Deandra.
Immature cells po are larger, and then
Mhm.
mature cells are smaller.
All right, wonderful. May ano pa siya, meron pang busina. Talagang ibig sabihin, tit tit, correct. Correct. Ganun talaga, no? I love it, Deandra. Okay? So, younger cells, or immature cells are larger, and mature cells are smaller. So, let's put everything into perspective. Look at your RBCs later. Look at RBCs. They start out extremely large, as extremely large cells, and then they become smaller as they mature. Megakaryocytes are the same. They start out large, and then their end products are bits and pieces of platelets. Okay? So those are the things that you just need to take into consideration. Maybe they would ask you, which of the following is not a characteristic of an immature cell? So that's the reason why I put it here. All right, now let's talk about the chromatin pattern of immature cells and mature cells. Anybody can tell me? General, I'm not looking for specifics yet. Okay? Anybody? What's the difference between a mature cell and an immature cell in terms of chromatin pattern? Anybody? Maybe Deandra can help us out, or another student. It's fine with me. All right,
From
Charis.
time to po, from time proceeding po.
Sorry, medyo putol-putol. Can you please repeat what you said?
From
I'm sorry.
time tapos slowly magiging core.
I'm sorry, I wasn't able to understand that. All right, somebody else can help out Charisse. I think she has an idea. I heard one word there, but unfortunately it got a little too choppy for me. Who else can help out Charisse? Anybody? All right, Deandra.
Yung chromatin po ng immature cells are fine. And then
Mm-hmm.
for mature cells, the chromatin is coarse and plump.
Okay, let's see. All right, so an immature actually is, so you guys are wrong this time. Look at the appearance. The more the more felt paper, the more feltier it looks like, the more immature it is. Look, look closely. See the difference? This one is denser and finer. There's not a lot of granules there or granulation. It's okay, Charisse. It's okay, Charisse. Don't worry. Okay? Alright? So be mindful of the appearance. Okay? So these are from Kyoto University. I do not take full responsibility for these pictures. Alright? So coarse to fine or dense. Okay? But thank you for trying, guys. Alright, next. Let's talk about the chromatid pattern. Chromatin pattern for erythroid and myeloid precursors. So this time we're differentiating between erythroid and myeloid precursor. Can anybody answer the chromatin pattern? Chromatin pattern. Well, it's basically the same answer as earlier, but in a different context. Look at this one. Erythroid precursors have much coarser, um, have a much coarser chromatin pattern. Look again. Look at how much granulation there is, or specks there is. They call it in the world of photography noise. If you're familiar with noise, the term noise, the grainier it looks, that means it's coarser. The more felt paper-ish it looks, that means it's finer. Okay? So you guys understand what it looks like? If anybody here is familiar with the term used in photography, noise, that's what you would expect. Okay? The noisier the quality of the chromatin is, the more likely it's going to be from a precursor of erythroid origin. Look at them. These are both blast cells. Okay? But we can't differentiate them. Why? If you need to be an experienced microscopist in order for you to differentiate between the both. But it's easy here because this one has a chromatoidal bar. And usually chromatoidal bars appear in WBC precursors. Alright? Especially with malignancies. Okay, so be mindful of those things that I said earlier. And now we're going to move on. Significance of nucleoli. Significance of nucleoli, it's quite easy to remember. Nucleoli is correlates to the ribosome and protein synthesis. The more nucleoli, the more nucleolar a cell has, the younger it is. So if nucleoli is present in one cell, you look at another cell, there's less of it there. It means that cell is older. Alright? So nucleoli contains ribosomes for protein synthesis. Okay? And they oftentimes disappear when the cell becomes more and more mature. Specifically, if you look at the precursor cells that I've showed you, this is an example of a nucleated RBC. Usually, you will see it in babies. A lot of the times, I would see it in babies, and it's this stage. Okay, it's this stage. A orthochromatophilic erythroblast. Why did I say erythroblast? Because orthochromatophilic means that the the cell is looking extremely sketchy in terms of the chromatin pattern. The color. There's a bluish tinge with a pinkish tinge, and then there's the reason why it's called a blast. It's because there's still a nucleus inside it. Okay. So it's the orthochromatophilic normoblast. All right. Now, the cytoplasm of a particular cell becomes much more basophilic as it ages, obviously. Okay? This doesn't apply for your WBC precursor cells. Okay? It does not apply for WBC precursors, mainly because of the fact that sorry, mainly because of the fact that WBC precursors, they have granulations that tend to uptake certain stains. So we have basophils, we have eosinophils, hence the term basophil, and eosinophil. Eosinophilic means the cell is much more adherent to the acidic type, acidic stain, which is basophil, which is the eosin dye. All right. So the more basophilic the cytoplasm is, the younger the cell, the the more basophilic a cell is, the more likely it's younger, and the more eosinophilic it is, the more mature the cell becomes. Okay, so how do we know this? You have an orthochromatophilic normoblast here, and beside it is a normal RBC. Okay, we're going to refer it to this slide again because this one is a good example. Look at the cytoplasm of this one. It's a little bit bluish, not too pink, which is the color of eosin. Okay, but when you look at the other one, it's too pink. It's very pinkish. So it means that this cell is much more basophilic because it still has that bluish tinge. All right, means that it's taking up some of the dye, but as it becomes older and it loses its nuclear contents, it becomes much more acidic in nature, especially the staining pattern. All right, so clear? Okay. Now, let's explain basophilia and eosinophilia in the RBC maturation series. Basophilia is the presence of acidic substances such as nucleic acid. All right. Eosinophilia is the increased amounts of alkaline substances such as hemoglobin and its derivatives. Okay. So it basically has something to do with affinity. So the more hemoglobin there is in the cell, and an example is your the more hemoglobin there is in the cell, the more likely it's going to pick up the eosinophil dye. The more nucleic acids there are in the cell, the more likely it's going to take up basophilia, the basophilic stain, which is hematoxylin. All right, basophilic stain. Are you guys familiar with eosin and H&E staining, hematoxylin eosin? So H&E stains can be used for RBC for blood smears, and this is what it looks like. RBC maturation, the RBC maturation series. Okay, look, did everything apply? Everything that we talked about earlier apply? Yes. All right. How do I know? Look at the cell. It's larger. Nucleus to cytoplasm ratio, it's larger. The nucleus is larger than the cytoplasm. It becomes smaller and smaller as the cell becomes older. All right. Look at the cytoplasm. It becomes from clearly blue to deep blue to lighter shades of blue. Then it becomes orthochromatophilic because there's a bluish tinge. It becomes polychromatophilic. There's bluish tinge and a whitish tinge. All right, polychromatophilic. And then it becomes a normocyte or an RBC, where it takes up only the eosin dye because of the alkalinity of eosin. Right, this one is rich with nucleic acids. Therefore, it will have an effect, and therefore the effect will be to absorb the acidic dye, which is hematoxylin. All right, cool. Opposites attract in this one. All right. Now let's describe the appearance of a pronormal blast. Now, a pronormal blast has the highest nucleus to cytoplasm ratio in the in the maturation series. Now, please be mindful that these cells are from these pictures that I took from the internet are from Kyoto University. Okay, shout out to Kyoto University. All of the pictures that I took here are from Kyoto University, and I do not take full responsibility for all of them. It is the intellectual property of Kyoto University, just for you guys, for your information, because we're posting it on YouTube and we don't want to get it flagged. Okay? So we need to give them a little bit of a shout out. Okay? Our friends there at Kyoto University. Okay, next. Let's describe pronormoblast first. A pronormoblast has the highest nucleus to cytoplasm ratio. Okay, it also has nucleoli, and it also has chromatin. If you look at it closely, step back a while. If you look at, I'm going to send you guys these slides. If you step back a while, when you look at the cells, you'll see an outline of circles inside, of darker shades of circles inside. Those are what you call nucleoli. Okay? And look at the side. There is a whitish tinge here. This means that it's actively dividing. Okay? This is also a nuclear feature or morphological feature that a cell is within the realms of division. It's about to divide. Okay? So be careful, be mindful of these things. If you're taking the ASCP, you're going to be given pictures also, and you need to identify what cell you're looking at. Okay? In ASCP, what's the cell? That's the only question that they have. You'll just select one box. Okay? You'll just select a box. You'll just select from the choices or press on the tabs. Alright? Now, there's what you call the term of a pale unstained area in the cytoplasm. This one that I'm pointing at. Alright? This one. Over here. Can you guys see it? Can you guys see what I'm pointing at in the presentation?
Yes, po, sir.
Alright, so I'm pointing at this unstained area over here. It's like a whitish discoloration. This is known as the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi complex, if you're familiar. Right? Again, this is a feature that the organism or that the cell, not the organism, I'm referring to it in the biology sense, but the cell is actively multiplying. Alright? That's the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi complex. Alright? Now, cellular activity that's happening in the pronormoblastic stage, the product of enzymes will produce hemoglobin synthesis, production of enzymes and proteins for hemoglobin synthesis. All right, so everything is being packaged and being created because of the DNA instructions from the nucleus, and as the cell grows older, the hemoglobin synthesis declines. Okay, so right now it's still actively occurring. Now, let's go with the nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio. The nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio of the basophilic normoblast is 6:1, usually, and they have a specific chromatin pattern, which is what we call a clumping chromatin pattern. Looks like clumps as opposed to the finer appearance of a myelloblast. Okay, 6:1, and there's signs of clumping. Next, the cytoplasm of basophilic normoblast was named so mainly because of the color blue of the cytoplasm as opposed to the dark violet cytoplasm of the pronormoblastic stage. Look at it. This one is deeply. The nucleus is lavender, or you can call it lilac. Would I call it lilac? let's just refer it to as let's refer to it as violet. This one is more on the tinge of black. Almost dark, dark violet, right? This one is violet and this one is darker violet. But when you look at the other color, there is clumping. Yeah, there is nucleoli present as well, but the appearance of the cytoplasm is different. See? See the difference? They're almost the same in appearance. There's Golgi apparatus as well. Clearly, there's an unstained area over there. But the difference is the cytoplasm. It's a little bit lighter. Hence the term normoblast, basophilic normoblast. Okay? Now, although there is hemoglobin synthesis occurring in the cytoplasm, the reason why a basophilic normoblast is basophilic is because of the presence of organelles and ribosomes. Alright? They mask the production of hemoglobin and makes it blue instead of a salmon pink color. See? So, you might say again, Adrian, that, sir, you lying. I thought you said when there's active hemoglobin synthesis that there's going to be an affinity towards the eosin. Why are you lying to us? So, ganun talaga yung accent ni Adrian sa akin. But that's because it's being masked by the organelles and the ribosomes. All right? They're still basophilic. Right? So therefore, it's going to turn blue. It's not yet at that point where the hemoglobin concentration is high that it will turn it into salmon pink. No. Okay? So be mindful of that one. Now, let's go to the nucleus to cytoplasm ratio of a polychromatophilic normoblast. Now, a polychromatic normoblast is going to have a 4:1 nucleus to cytoplasmic ratio, and actually, the characteristic appearance of the nucleus is very unique. It actually has a checkerboard nucleus. Look at it closely. Step back and look at it closely. Looks like there's open areas around it because there's clumping. Looks like a checkerboard. If you step back from your monitors and look at it closely, there are darker areas, there are lighter areas in the in the nucleus. Okay? That's characteristic of a polychromatophilic normoblast. Why is it polychromatophilic? Well, it's because of the fact that there is still a mixture of lighter shades of salmon pink, and then there's white tinges. There's hints of white, and then there's also darker shades of blue. So it's still in the cytoplasm. So hence the term polychromatophilic. Okay? But what differentiates it from the rest is the checkerboard appearance. Step back from your monitors, and look at the nucleus. It looks like there is a checkerboard pattern into it. You don't need to literally think of it as a checkerboard, but what I'm trying to get here is that there are areas where there's lighter shades of blue, of pink. Okay? If you guys get what I'm saying. You guys get what I'm saying? Baka mamaya sabihan ako ni Adrian, sir, why are you lying to us? Do you guys appreciate what I'm can you see it? It's a little bit more subjective, but hopefully you guys get an appreciation of the colors. All right? So Adrian, I hope you're not going to say, sir, why are you lying? Ganon. Same pa talaga yung accent. Very urban. Alright? I don't want to use the word ghetto. It sounds a little too demeaning. Let's go with the word urban. It's much more safe. Okay? So that's the appearance of your polychromatophilic normoblast. Now, the third stage of the maturation series is named as such because, as I mentioned before, there's an irregular pattern of staining in the cytoplasm. We're looking at the cytoplasm. There's an irregular pattern. It's not uniform as opposed to these guys. Where's the one where there's, yeah, so see, it's much more uniform here. Much more uniform here. This one, so again, see the uniformity in the cytoplasm stain. When you look at this one, it's a little bit too chaotic. Hence the term polychromatophilic. Means there's a lot of staining patterns. Okay? There's a lot of stains. Alright? Now, let's move on to polychromatophilic normoblast is said to be the first stage of the maturation series to exhibit this type of stain. Of what type of staining? They call it as the pinkish to reddish staining. Why? Because there is what? Hemoglobin. Alright? There's hemoglobin. There's an increasing amount of hemoglobin. Remember that the goal of this cell is to carry hemoglobin. The end product of this cell carries hemoglobin. So see? Do we still have the normal polychromatophilic pattern? Yes. Darker colors there, here and there. Lighter tinge of pinkish tinge here. Look back, step back and check it out. There looks like an irregular pattern as well in the nucleus, right? There's some areas where there's lighter colors. There's areas where there's darker colors. If you actually step back from your monitors, you can see that it actually kind of resembles a checkered pattern, right? Now, describe the nucleus to cytoplasm. The nucleus of an orthochromic normoblast or orthochromatophilic erythroblast. Well, it has a condensed and pycnotic nucleus. Wink. Actually, in some books, they would call it a nipple-shaped RBC. Why does it look like a nipple? Yeah, it does look like a nipple. Medyo may pagkautong, no? Ang gaspang ng pagkasabi ko nung utong. Sorry guys, nipples. All right? Sorry sa medyo may pagkagaspang yung ugali. Nawalan tayo ng poise doon. Sorry naman. Please forgive me guys. I hope you guys can forgive me for my brash behavior. All right? All right? So, this one is pycnotic. What do we mean by pycnotic? Pycnosis is basically the process at which the cellular nucleus is going to be expelled about to be expelled from the nucleus. It's still there. It's just protruding outward. That's why in the stains, you would often see it as an eccentric nucleus. Most of the time, you would see this type of maturation in this stage of the maturation series of RBCs is usually eccentric. What do I mean by eccentric? It's never in the central part. It's always on the sides of the nucleus is always on the side of the cell. Almost all of the time. Alright? Now what's the color of the cytoplasm? It's again pink to orange, or we call it salmon pink. The indication for this color is there's again hemoglobin content inside. And it's an indication of the completeness of hemoglobin production. See again the appearance. It has an eccentric nucleus. It's never in the middle. It's almost always in the sides because it's undergoing pycnosis. All right? Now, we have a histopathology recall. I hope Dr. Llanera has told you all about it. What's the steps of nuclear dissolution? Can anybody answer this one? It's a histopathology recall question. And I know you don't want to talk about histopathology now, especially when Sir Marco told me that you guys hated it so much. All right. So, what are the steps of nuclear dissolution? It was Dr. Llanera who told us this when I was in college. So, I'm passing on the knowledge to you as well. What are the steps of nuclear dissolution? Wala, ayoko muna sa Adrian. Baka sabihin meron akong favoritism. Anybody else? What about Ursia? Who's Ursia? Rainiel. Si Rainiel pala yun. Alright. What about Rainiel? Rainiel ha, puro Genshin Impact. Hi.
Hello, sir. Inayos lang po yung microphone ko po.
Oh. Hindi naman yun ang tinatanong ko, yung microphone mo. Ang tinatanong ko, yun nandyan sa
Yan kasi
screen.
baka
Ikaw talaga.
po na baka po kasi mag-type ulit ako.
Okay, so please answer the question, Rainiel, if you may. Ayan na. Oh. Parang, parang biglang tumahimik si Rainiel. Rainiel, okay ka lang? Steps of nuclear dissolution. Or the process na lang. Baka mamaya process ang sinabi ni Dr. Llanera. There's only 3 steps or stage processes in the nuclear dissolution. Wala na? Tawagin ko na naman si Adrian. Iba naman. Alright, Joanna.
Ano po? Nuclear fading, shrinkage, tsaka fragment.
Okay. Ano nga ulit yan? Ulitin natin?
Ano po? Nuclear fading, shrinkage, and fragmentation po. Or
Alright.
cariolysis, caryorexis po.
Alright. Sige nga, tingnan natin. Ooh, girl. Good. Very good. Cariolysis, my God. Pycnosis, and then, sobrang excite ko, medyo nasipa ko yung bote sa ibaba. Sorry guys, kung narinig nyo yun. So, cariolysis, pycnosis, and caryorexis. Cariolysis, basically dissolution, or what she said earlier, nuclear fading. Pycnosis is what I mentioned earlier, it's poking out of the cell. Alright? And caryorexis is basically dissolution. It's like it dissolves. Alright? So, nagdi-dissolve talaga siya. Yes, it can dissolve. Now, what organ is responsible for the removal of the nucleus of an RBC precursor? Ayan, yan na tayo. Review from our earlier discussion. What organ is responsible for the removal of the nucleus of an RBC? Mali ang grammar ko dyan. Matagal ko nang tinype kasi yan eh. When I was still in college. But it's an oldie but a goodie lecture. So, anybody? What organ is responsible? Anatomy and physiology na naman tayo. Talagang pag hindi ka nakapasa ng anatomy and physiology, hindi ka talaga makakasagot dito sa mga questions natin. It's really a requirement for you guys to do well in your anatomy and physiology classes. Anybody? What organ is responsible for the removal of... Ano po?
Spleen po.
Alright, okay. Okay, thank you so much, Noreen. Thank you for participating. It's actually the spleen. Ano nga yung histological, yung section, yung parts ng histological section ng ating spleen? Can you guys still remember? What are the parts of the spleen that is important for us? When you do a cross section, general lang, hindi nyo kailangan ituro sa akin yung cords of Billroth. Wag ganon. Pang ano na yon, pang medicine na yon. Reserve it for your for your review. Sino makakasagot? Nakalimutan niyo yung white pulp, yung red pulp, and then yung follicular area, and then we also have walang follicular area, yung lymph nodes pala yon. Yes, very good. Marginal zones in the histological area, those are the features that we're looking for. But the most important features that I want you guys to remember is the cortex and the medulla, because there's different cells that predominate there. And I'm not going to repeat everything I say. You guys need to review. All right? Next. When small fragments of nuclear material are left behind by splenic macrophages, what is the term for that inclusion body? Ayan na. Lumalabas na yung mga inclusion bodies na yan. When splenic macrophages leave behind nuclear material, what do you call the inclusion bodies left behind? Pakadali. It sounds like one of the restaurants in the Philippines. Famous fast food restaurant pala. Baka mamaya may magsagot ng Mary Grace eh. Baka sasakalin ko talaga pag may nagsabi ng Mary Grace. Alright? Nuclear fragments. That sounds like one of the famous restaurants, fast food restaurants in the Philippines. Ano ba? Parehas kayong dalawa, Deandra at saka Joanna, mag-combine, mag-fusion nga kayong dalawa. Yung fusion, yung ganun. Kasi okay na sana kayong dalawa, kaso magkakahiwalay ang sagot ninyong dalawa. Kayo talaga. kayo talaga. How well? Jolly. Bodies. Ba't ganun ang sagutan? Joanna, correct na sana yung sagot. I would have been extremely happy between the both of your answers. But unfortunately, it's incorrect because it's just cut off in the middle. Okay, so it's Howell Jolly. So don't forget my mnemonic for this one. I feel very proud to have taught this to many students, and they will oftentimes come back to me and say, "Sir, thank you so much. Tinuro nyo sa amin yung mnemonic mo na Jolly D." Kasi tinanong sa exam nila, what is the component of Howell Jolly bodies? Ang tamang sagot is DNA. It's actually DNA fragments. Alright? So guys, wag nyo kakalimutan ha. Wag nyo kakalimutan. Pag-fusion ninyo lang si Joanna Baltar at saka si Deandra Postigo, and we'll have Diana Baltigo. Alright? So we'll have Diana Baltigo. So, kasi pag-fusion silang ganon. Para hindi nyo makalimutan ha. Howell Jolly bodies yung tapang sagot. Alright? pag pinag-fusion yung dalawang estudyante, gumawa na Diana Baltigo. Alright? So, ganon, ha? Howell Jolly, Jolly D. D, bakit Jolly D? Because DNA yung laman. Alright? So, please don't forget that one. It will be an important part of your medical technologists with an S journey, with an apostrophe S. It will be important for you as medical technologists to know what these inclusion bodies have. Okay? Howell Jolly bodies. What unique staging characteristic? What is the unique staging characteristics of a polychromatophilic normocyte? Ano na naman yan, sir? Bakit naman ganun kayo? Ang dami ninyong alam na mga tanungan. Siyempre, pinaparaphrase ko yung mga question. Well, the answer is quite simple. The answer is an RBC precursor cell that can be staged without a nucleus. It's the only thing unique about it. All right? It's not very unique, okay? It's not very unique, but it is one of the few RBC it's the only one that can be staged without a nucleus. All right. Next, morphological difference between polychromatophilic normocyte and a normocyte. Okay? So both of them, they're anucleated, meaning they don't have a nucleus. But it has a lumpy potato-like cytoplasm as opposed to a normocyte, which is biconcaved in appearance. What do you mean by biconcave? So ano naman yung mga terminologies na yan? Napakahirap naman ng mga iniiwan mo sa aming mga vocabulary words / talasalitaan. Medyo nahihirapan kami. So let's try to make it, let's focus here on these cells. These cells look like they're normal. Oh, actually, they're not normal. They suffer from anisocytosis. Let's look at other examples. I have other examples here. Yeah. All right, this one. Don't focus on this one. Focus on this one and this one. This one, why does it look like it has a biconcavity? There's a central pallor, all right? A third of it is has a central pallor. Well, this one looks like it's potato-like. It doesn't look very circular as opposed to this one. It's not a perfect circle, but this one, it doesn't look very appealing. It looks like a potato, right? So that's what I mean when I say that it looks like it has a morphological difference. It has potato-like cytoplasm or a lumpy cytoplasm. Polychromatophilic. I'm talking about polychromatophilic normocytes. And when you look at a normocyte, it has biconcavity. Now the shape of a polychromatophilic normocyte is polished by macrophages. By what organ? Again, the spleen. Alright? Si spleen talaga yung important. Okay? What is the functional changes of polychromatophilic normocytes? Well, you're going to have complete hemoglobin production, but only with residual mRNA. Okay? The reduction of adhesion molecules allow the exit from the bone marrow. Okay? So, aside from completion of hemoglobin production with the residual mRNA, there is a reduced production of adhesion molecules. Ito na naman yung mga adhesion molecules na yan. Now, when there is a reduction of adhesion molecules, yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina, yung mga may bursa adventicula kanina, na mga pinagsasabi ko doon sa cords ng bone marrow, wala nang magpapadikit sa kanila. Ano ba yung mga adhesion molecules na sinabi ko kanina? Yung laminin, collagen, there's a lot more. There's like actually 7. There's actually 6. But laminin is one of those adhesion molecules that gets decreased when the cell is ready to go out of the bone marrow, or the RBC is ready to go out of the bone marrow. So be careful and be mindful of that one, okay? Now, let's move on to when stained with a vital stain. What term is used for a polychromatophilic normocyte? Ayan na, sinabi ko kanina yung vital stain. Supravital actually. What is the stain that we use to stain polychromatophilic normocytes? Anybody? Baka mamaya meron na naman mag-confusion na estudyante, ha? What's the answer for this one? What's the answer to my question? Don't answer the question first. My question is, what stain do we use to visualize polychromatophilic normocytes? Anybody? Anybody? Polychromatic normocytes. Sinabi na ninyo kanina, paulit-ulit siya eh. Yung cell. Ngayon, I'm asking for the stain. There's actually
Right
2.
stain po sila.
Hi! Right stain na nga itong kanina eh. Right stain na yung kanina. Pero, vital stain ba siya or supravital ba siya? It's not a supravital stain. Why? Kasi, kailangan mo siyang i-fix. Yun ang pinagkaiba ng vital stains or supravital stains with your Romanowski stains. Alright? Your Romanowski stains, you will fix it on the slide. You need to dip it on methanol. Ideally methanol, but you can use ethanol 95%. But let's talk about that later when we discuss the staining procedures. I need you guys to know what is the difference between a vital stain and what vital stain are we using. Sinabi ko na nga yung Romanowski stain, hindi nga yun yung Romanowska stain, Diandra. Okay? Bilis. Sige. I'm going to the girls' room, and I'm going to give you guys a couple of 2 minutes to come up with an answer. I'm going to the little girls' room. Talagang little girls' room. So answer the question. What is the stain that we use as a vital stain to demonstrate polychromatophilic normocytes? That's my question. Okay? I'll type it also in the chat box.
methylene blue po.
Mali. You're partially correct, but I'm asking specifically for what type of methylene blue. Okay, so I'm typing it in the chat box, guys, the question. All right? So let's repeat the timer. All right? The question is in the chat box. I'll give you guys 2 minutes. You could either type it or you could tell it in the voice chat. I can hear you guys because I'm wearing a headset. All right. So, before the timer ended, people have been answering, and I've seen a lot of people who answered correctly, but they are unsure. Now, in the exam, I don't want you guys to be unsure, but all your answers are correct. Adrian said new methylene blue or NMB. All right, that's correct. And brilliant crescent blue is also correct, but you guys need to remove po. you guys need to remove po, okay? That's the only downside in your answer is that there's po. Okay? Baka mamaya madala nyo sa exam ha. Charis. Charis ha. Charis at Joanna ha. Huwag nyo dadalhin sa exam yung po ha. Baka mamaya nag-answer kayo tapos may type box doon sa dulo. Po. I'm kidding. Alright? I just wanna make you guys laugh. Alam mo naman ako, Joker, Echusera Joker / Echusera. Okay? So, we call it reticulocytes. So, it's no longer considered as a polychromatophilic normocyte when you stain it with a supravital stain. You call it now as a reticulocyte. But overall, it would still be acceptable if you would call it like that. But, in the exam, they might still call it as a polychromatophilic normocyte. Just for your information, they could be used synonymously. The only difference is that reticulocyte is already stained with a supravital stain. And yeah. Alright? Now, the diffuse pattern or diffuse basophilia what is the difference between diffuse basophilia from punctate basophilia? Okay? So diffuse basophilia, bluish throughout the cytoplasm, while punctate basophilia is bluish dots in the cytoplasm. Alright? Why is this important? Because you're going to see it peppered around. Punctate basophilia means that there are iron deposits in the cell, as opposed to diffuse basophilia. But not all the time that there's punctate basophilia you would see iron deposits. No. It doesn't happen all the time. Right? What causes the basophilia imparted on by RBCs? It's actually residual RNA. Right? Yung mga tira-tira na RNA. Okay? Mga latak. If you want me to be more garish in my statements. Mga latak. Alright? Ganun. Alright, next. Let's talk about the mature RBCs. Now, mature RBC is often referred to as a normocyte, an erythrocyte, a mature red blood cell, or just a red blood cell. It's biconcave in appearance And again, this is from Kyoto University. This is an electropictomicrograph of a of an RBC, an electron micrograph rather, an electron micrograph. So they used an electron microscope. So it really looks fancy, right? It accentuates the biconcavity of the cell. Actually, it's not really biconcave here, but you get the idea. At the when you flip it over, it looks like when you look at it right now, it looks like a burger. But when you flip it, okay, it's still the same. Okay, it's biconcave, right? Now, the cytoplasm of a mature RBC is salmon pink, red or pinkish with a central pallor. The central pallor is 1/3 of the cell size. So be mindful of that one. If it goes beyond this 1/3 size, it's going to indicate hypochromia. All right? It's going to indicate hypochromia. If it's beyond, if it's less than or no central pallor, that means there's hyperchromia. And we're going to do that. We're going to talk about that when we go to examination of peripheral blood smears. All right? Now, in relation to its oxygen carrying capacity, what is the importance of RBC shape? Well, the biconcavity allows it to move about and carry oxygen closer to the cell surface. Okay? It pushes hemoglobin closer to the cell surface for better oxygen carrying capacity. Okay? So look at this one. Kung doon siya sa gitna, tapos biconcave siya, hindi ka makakakuha ng oxygenation. Hindi proper yung oxygenation mo. As opposed to this one, the biconcavity pushes the donut shape, pushes the oxygen on the periphery. So, tumbling-tumbling man yung RBC mo dyan sa arteries mo or the capillaries rather, it would still be able to do its job. All right? Which is oxygen carry, which is to carry oxygen. All right? Now, important notes to remember. The last cell in the RBC maturation series capable of mitosis is the polychromatophilic normoblast or your rubricite. Okay? What stage? They would usually ask, what stage? First, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. What stage is polychromatophilic normoblast or the rubricitic stage? Anybody? Mabilisan. Very good. Very good, very good. Mabilisan lang. 'Di ba? Rektahan na to. 'Di ba? Oh my God. I'm still nakikita ninyo yung yung Kanto girl personality ko tuloy. All right, yun yung Kanto girl personality ko, no? So the average lifespan of an RBC is actually 120 days, but there are people who like to confuse us and they would say 110 to 120 days. That is also acceptable because sometimes, as I mentioned before, we have three members of the board of medical technology. And these three oftentimes have discrepancies using their when they're using their notes or when they use their references. Okay? In Henry, it's 120. When you look at Rodak, it's 110 to 120. When you look at Daisy's book, it's 'above 100 days. So the most acceptable is 120, but oftentimes in the Philippine board exams, it's always 110 to 120. So I just left 120 days. Okay, but if they put it in range, you can go as low as 110. All right. Now, which WBC is close to the size of an RBC? Again, this one. This is a question that is oftentimes asked in the exams. Actually, in question banks, when you go for practice questions, in intensive reviews of ASCP, when you do an intensive review for the ASCP, They would ask this one. Which WBC is close to the size of an RBC? So can anybody answer that question before I move on? What is the answer to this question? I'll give you guys again another minute while I look for water because I'm really thirsty. Okay, you can type it on chat. You can say it on the voicemail. You can say it on voice chat. It's not a problem with me. Mm-hmm. You still have 15 seconds. Maybe merong taong gustong kumontest sa sagot ninyo. Nads Majalil said lymphocytes. All right. All right. So I'm interested in knowing more about Nadsma. Nadsma, can you unmute yourself? Hello? Is Nadsma there? I'm curious because this is the first time I'm seeing Nadsma in class. Yes, Nadsma. Why did you answer lymphocytes? Ano na? Why did you answer lymphocytes?
Sir, kasi po same lang po sila ng, parang close lang po talaga sila ng RBC po.
Okay. All right. I accept that. That is actually correct. Thank you so much. But what makes me curious is where are you from? Because your name is different from everybody else, and I assume you are from Mindanao.
Late po ako naka-enroll.
And I assume you're from Mindanao, and I would like to greet you Ramadan Kareem. Okay?
Sir, nandito.
All right. So I'd like.
Hindi po ako Muslim.
Okay. I thought it's a common name for many of my students who are actually Muslim, but I thought I was mistaken, unfortunately. But yeah. Anyway, your name reminded me of one of my students. Her name is actually Nadsmi, the male version of Nadsma. So I thought, okay. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, she's correct. Everybody here is also correct. Very good. As I think everybody is aware of the sizes. All right. All right. Okay. So how many days does it take for a mature RBC to form from a BFU? Ayan na tayo. All right. So how many days? Tandaan nyo lang yung sinabi ko kanina, 3 weeks, di ba? BFU, 7 days to become CFU. CFU takes another 7 days to become a normal site. To become a normal blast, pro-normal blast. Pro-normal blast becomes an RBC for another 7 days. Diba? Kita nyo? 7, 14, 21. Alright? So, bakit kailangan kong ilagay pa yung 18? Kasi nandyan yung sa libro Nilagay ko lang talaga. Kayo talaga, ini-etchos ko lang kayo. Pero, yeah, 21. So, see, nakita nyo kung bakit important tandaan yung BFU. From BFU to mature RBCs. See? So, alright? 7, 14, 21. O, diba? 7 days. Okay? Now, let's move on to granulopoiesis. So, ano naman yung granulopoiesis, sir? Pinapahirapan nyo na naman kami sa mga terminologies nyo. O, sige, Adrian, what do you mean by granulopoiesis? Kasi kanina pa raise ng hand si Adrian. Alright. Ay, ngayon naman tahimik ngayon si Adrian. Ano ba yan?
Sorry, sir. Galing po ako sa baba. Dumating po kasi yung mom ko.
Okay, so now that you're answering, what's granulopoiesis? Hmm.
Sir, it's the formation of um WBCs
Okay, good.
to
Very good.
have granules po.
Very good. Very good. That's good. Diba? That's a good answer. All right. A little bit incomplete. Much as like it's pretty much expected from your answers. Everybody's answers is always incomplete. Katulad ka kanina ni Diandra tsaka ni Diandra tsaka ni Joanna. It's a little bit incomplete. But anyway,
Sir,
how long how long does it take to
basophil,
form?
ano po,
Ano?
basophil, eosinophil,
Ah,
and neutrophils po.
oh, yan. O, diba? How long does it take for a mature granulocyte to form from a blast cell? All right? It's about 14 days. 14 days lang, sir. Wow, it's so fast. Yeah. All right, so now let's enumerate the cells from the granulocytic maturation series in order. All right? Starting from the earliest morphologically recognizable stage. So, somebody in the voice chat, help me out here. What's the answer? In order, ha? In order. Baka mamaya, sabihin nyo, wala ka naman sinabi, sir, na ano. Why you tripping? Gagano'n ako ni Adrian. Why you tripping? I said everything is just not in order because you didn't say it's in order. Blank. All right? So what's the answer for this one? Anybody? Ayun na naman tayo sa paisa-isa, ha? Charis, ha? Charis, magsalita ka na lang. Ayan na naman tayo. Ayan na si Apple at saka si Charis. Mag-fusion naman sila ngayon. Ano ba? Ano ba? Charis, sige, magsalita ka na.
First stage po, mieloblast.
Aha.
Then, promyelocyte.
Aha.
Myelocyte.
Aha.
Metamyelocyte.
Aha. And then? Hoy, kulang pa.
Tapos po,
Ano?
sa metamyelocyte po, either po, magiging segmented neutrophil po siya, eosinophil or basophil po.
Hoy, may kulang kang isa. Pinulang ka ng isa. Alright. Can anybody help her? She's almost correct. Partially correct again. Anybody? Ayoko ng chat, Apple. Hindi ko mabasa. Malabo mata ko kunwari. Apple, open your microphone.
Myeloblast,
Ayan, galing. Wait.
promyelocyte, myelocyte, metamyelocyte, band, tsaka segmented granulocyte.
Ayan. Pero, Apple, okay ka lang. Hindi ka naman galit. Okay ka lang. Okay lang, Apple.
Okay lang po, sir.
Alright. Her voice sounds like she is not having it. Not today, sir. Not today. I am pissed off. Parang ganun yung voice niya eh. Yeah. Aljoy. Rar, ganun. Pero, ano ba? Busy ako. Nanonood ako ng Netflix, sir. Pero sige, sasagutin ko. Ganon. So the earliest recognizable cell is, of course, the myeloblast. We're going to talk about them one by one today. What time is it there in the Philippines?
Sir, 319 po.
3:19. So how long will I be here until 6, right? Or 5?
6 p.m. po.
All right, until 6. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Joanna. Live ang timer ko kay Joanna. I love it. Live, parang ano lang, Big Brother live lang. All right. So the youngest cell that you're going to see in the series that's recognizable in the slides will be the myeloblasts. Okay? Now, let's talk about the myeloblasts first. Now, myeloblast, what's the size of a myeloblast? It's 15 to 30 micrometers. The nucleus to cytoplasm ratio is 4:1. The number of nucleoli can range from 2 to 5. All right? So easy peasy. Okay? Why did I highlight the size? Because, funny enough, this question appeared in my ASCP examination. So if you guys have prospects to go to the United States, you must be able to remember certain things. Okay? Now, what's the appearance of the nucleus of the myeloblast? Well, it's really easy. It's round and round and slightly oval. Okay? Round to slightly oval. It has a cytoplasm which is basophilic. Look at the appearance of the nucleus. There's an outline of 3 circles inside. All right? Looking at it closely also, you can appreciate that it looks a little bit felt tipped. It's more feltier than the rubriblast version, right? It's not coarse or clumpy, and it's not darker than its RBC counterpart. Okay? Now, let's talk about the chromatin pattern of a myeloblast. It has a fine chromatin pattern. Alright? Fine chromatin pattern. So, dun tayo nagkamali kanina. There's coarse, clumped, fine, and then dense. Okay? Dense is parang tightly compact siya. Yun nga yung kanina, yung katulad kay polychromatophilic normoblast earlier. Alright? So, that's the appearance of a myelocyte. Let's talk about promyelocyte. So, the size again is 15 to 21 micrometers this time. The nucleus to cytoplasm ratio can range from 2 to 3. 2 to 3:1. All right? And then the number of nucleoli has decreased. It's around 2 to 3 this time. All right? So, the notable changes here is the size and the nucleus to cytoplasm ratio. All right? Now, let's describe the chromatin pattern of the promyelocyte. The promyelocyte has a slightly coarser chromatin pattern, and the cytoplasm has primary granules. What do I mean by primary granules? This is the first time you're going to hear this. Primary granules are the granules that you see, but it's not the granules that you see. That's almost the same as the granules that you would see from a mature segmenter, but this time it doesn't look specific. That's the reason why it's called as non-specific granules. All right. So it's slightly coarser, mainly because there is the appearance of the appearance is overlapping with the granules of the cytoplasm within the cytoplasm rather. So please be mindful of this one. It's also known as primary granules or non-specific granules. Okay? Now, the contents of the primary granules are as follow. Just follow the mnemonic CAMEL. All right? CAMEL. What does CAMEL stands for? CAMEL stands for CAP, aryl sulfatase, myeloperoxidase, elastase, and lysosomal enzymes. Alright? So CAP, what is CAP ba? Cationic antibacterial proteins, aryl sulfatase, myeloperoxidase, elastase, and lysosomal enzymes. Alright? So it's mainly composed of enzymes with the exception of CAP. Alright? Now let's move on to a myelocyte. The size of a myelocyte is going to decrease again, but this time it's around 12 to 15 micrometers. The nucleus to cytoplasm ratio is 1:1, and the number of nucleoli, there's no more. All right? There's no more nucleoli present. Now, describe the chromatin pattern and what is present in the cytoplasm. Just a sec. The chromatin pattern is coarser. All right? So it's coarser, and It has an eccentric nucleus. Ayan na naman tayo, sir, sa eccentric nucleus. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng eccentric nucleus, Joanna Baltar? Ulitin ko lang. Joanna Baltar, what do you mean by an eccentric nucleus?
Find specific granules po.
Okay. So medyo kalmado na si ano, hindi na medyo galit yung sagot ng mga students. I love it. Thank you, Joanna.
Yes po.
Ayan. Alright. She's having it na. Alright. She has time for me na. Secondary granules is also present in the cytoplasm of a myelocyte. Alright. So what's the difference between the granules from this to this? You can actually identify what WBC they will be, sorry. All right? So that's the difference. Secondary granules are also known as specific granules. All right? So sometimes they're going to ask you a question in the Philippine board exam. Which of the following stages of which of the following stages of the WBC maturation series can you first tell what granulocyte it is? Diba? What granulocyte a cell would be? Mga ganong question. They will paraphrase it several times. They would say, but the gist of the question should be the point of the question is, what stage can you identify what granulocyte that particular cell would become? All right. So at this stage, you can identify this as what? What do we call this one? This one only had the one that I'm pointing at. Yeah, what will it become in the future? Nakalimutan na. Ano yan yung may color na ganyan? I remember Sir Marco told me that you had a what do you call this? Bakit ganon? Dalawa yung slideshow. Ano yung pinindot ko? Ba't naging dalawa? I heard Sir Marco told me that you guys have been practicing on looking at slides. So, what cell would you think this would be after it matures?
Eosinophil po.
Very good. Wow, how can you tell? Girl, how can you tell? I don't believe you. You have to prove it to me. Sasabihin ni Adrian. Ganon yung voice ni Adrian.
Yung medyo pink po sa gilid, sir.
Okay.
Yung chromatin
Very good.
niya po.
Very good. Chromatin! Nako. Tulungan. Tulungan ng classmate. Sinong kayang tumulong? Hindi chromatin yon.
Cytoplasm po, sorry.
Ayan, granule sa cytoplasm. Alright. Kayo talaga ha. The specifics and the technicalities will be the bane of your existence, guys. Okay. Alright. So, sasabihin ni Adrian, girl, you're lying. That's not the chromatin. That's the cytoplasmic granules. Gaganon yan si Gaganon yan si Adrian. Ganon na ganon yung accent. Alright? So, let's move on to the next question. Yeah, we already have the specific we already discussed what's the contents of the primary granules, which is camel, all right? CAP, aryl sulfatase, myeloperoxidase, ano nga yung E? E, and then lysosomal enzymes. Ano nga yung E? Nakalimutan ko yung E. Elastase. Nakalimutan ko yung E. Sorry naman, may mental block ako minsan. Signs of aging, guys. Alright? Elastase. Alright? So this time, we have what you call LAPC. Dalawang L. LAPC. Lysosomes, lactoferrins, aminopeptides, plasminogen activators, and collagenase. Alright? Collagenase. Alright? If you can look closely, it's more or less specific for the destruction of foreign RBCs and of course movement around the cell what? Movement around the cell, movement around connective tissue. Connective tissue is oftentimes composed of a lot of collagen, and these cells need to move about a connective tissue matrix. So with the help of collagenase, when they release collagenase, it makes them easier to move about certain spots around the human body. Lysosomes, lactoferrin, aminopeptides, these are responsible for destroying the cell. Plasminogen activators is related primarily to coagulation. We're not going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it when we have a specific discussion about coagulation. All right? So be mindful of those things. Now, what types of granules are present in an eosinophilic myelocyte? Of course, we have large granules and small granules. The large granules contains a lot of stuff. All right, MBP, acid hydrolase, a lot of things. I don't want you guys to remember all of this, but just be mindful that you guys will be asked which of the following metamyelocytes have large and small granules. That's usually what they're going to ask you. All right. Next, basophilic ones have a different specific granules as well. All right. So hindi lang si neutrophilic myelocytes, hindi lang si eosinophilic myelocytes. Meron din tayong specific granules for basophils. And they have histamine, heparin, eosinophilic chemotactic factor, and peroxidase. Okay? And the mnemonic is HEP. Okay? Mnemonic is HEP. Right? Bakit histamine? Allergic reaction. Uy, type 1 hypersensitivity. Alam ko na kagad. Eosinophilic chemotactic factor. Uy, madadali ko natin maalala kasi siya yung tumatawag para ma-destroy yung parasites. Alright? Next, let's go to the metamyelocyte stage. The size is 10 to 15 micra. Alright? And the nucleus to cytoplasm ratio, it looks like it's an indented nucleus, or they call it kidney bean shape. This is what it looks like. As you can see, there's still the presence of a Golgi apparatus. All right, and the chromatin is coarse now. All right, so look at it closely. Step back if you cannot see the appearance of the Golgi apparatus. Step back a little bit. You're going to see it clearly. All right. Sometimes you just need to appreciate the cell for what it is. Okay. So that's the Golgi apparatus. That's the halo here. Now, we have several names for stab cells. They're considered as band cells. They're considered as staph cells. Whatever you call it, they have a size ranging from 9 to 15 micra. All right? And the shape of the nucleus is oftentimes C-shaped or S-shaped. And this is what it looks like. All right? This is a complete there's a stark comparison between them. From the kidney bean shaped to this one. And oftentimes, most of my students, when I would ask them to identify a cell, they would often say this is a monocyte, especially when it looks like a neutrophil and it has a larger nucleus. Because sometimes the smears, they have irregularities in the sizes of the cell. They would often mistake it as a monocyte. So please be careful. Look at the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is clearly a neutrophil, correct? Because it has fine lilac granules. For monocytes, they have a robin egg blue cytoplasm. O diba? Ang daming colors. Sir, paano pag colorblind ako? Well, I have a colleague who was able to bypass the challenges of color identification his deficiencies with lack of rods and cones. He made up with his diligence in his work. He is now the head of the hematology department, but unfortunately for the life of him, he could not be able to tell what is the difference between a basophil and a monocyte. Sorry, a neutrophil and a monocyte. So, who if anybody here is a person who has color blindness or who often fails the Ishihara tests, okay? Don't fret, okay? Don't fret. You still have a future. So wag kayong mag-alala kahit meron kayong mga deficiencies sa rods and cones ninyo sa sa eyes ninyo. You are still capable of doing you're still capable of practicing medical technology or clinical laboratory science. All right? So don't worry. Meron ba tayong colorblind sa class? Wala naman. Usually in a crowd of 100 there's always one or two people. So baka meron tayong wag kayong mahiya, don't worry. Okay? You can say you're colorblind, don't worry about it. We're not judgy here. Or actually I'm not judgy, but I think some of your classmates would be. So all right, I would like to keep it I would respect your if whoever you are, if you're colorblind, I would respect your right to privacy na lang. All right? Okay. So let's move on to segmented granulocytes. Differentiate the colors of the granules for each of the following granulocytes. So neutrophils, rose to lilac. All right? Eosinophils, red to orange. All right? And look at the granules, they're much coarser than that of neutrophils. Also, you have basophils that are purple to dark blue. Sometimes if you use a quality stain, they would often stain black, especially here in our hospital. They immediately stain black. All right? Now, how many nobulations are present in a neutrophil? It's about 2 to 5. All right? And how many lobulations are present in the following? For WBCs, for these other WBCs, basophils has 1 to 2 lobulations, and eosinophils also have 1 to 2 lobulations. All right. So is that correct? Let's go back. Yeah. All right. So 1 and 2, 1 and 2. See? So it's correct. All right. Now, cell line that has soluble granules. Ayan, ito yung mga which white blood cell has soluble granules? Oh, ayan ang magandang question. Soluble ang granules. Which one? I'll give you guys a minute to ponder over it because this is another question that is a must know. Oh, may nag-raise ng hand. O sige, inom pa naman sana ako ng tubig. Sino yung nag-raise ng hand? Hindi ko nakita. Unmute yourself and answer. Okay, Deandra.
Basophil po.
All right, wonderful. All right, thank you so much. Basophils have the water-soluble granules. So if you don't know that, you have to repeat everything that we're talking about here. Right? Why? Because go back to the granules. Ang layo, no? Go back to the granules. Look at the granules. Histamine, heparin, eosinophilic chemotactic factor, and peroxidase. Peroxidase is water-soluble. Heparin is also water-soluble. And histamine is also water-soluble. Alright? Eosinophilic chemotactic factor, I have no idea. But I'm pretty sure these three are water-soluble. Okay? Let's move on. Nasaan ako kanina? Ang layo. Alright, so enumerate the cells in the maturation series indicated in monopoiesis. Ano naman yung monopoiesis? Grabe naman, sir. Ang dami namang poiesis. O sige, sinong pwedeng magsagot for me? Who wants to answer? O ayan si Lindell. Lindell, let's go.
Ano po, sir? Monoblast, promonocyte, and monocyte po.
Alright, wonderful. Let's see if she's correct. She is According to Chris Aquino, correct! Alright? I know, ang ingay. Alright, now, the size of a monoblast is around 12 to 20 micra. The nucleus to cytoplasm ratio is 3 to 4 is to 1. And the nucleoli present falls somewhere around 1 is to 2. Why don't I have pictures? I have a picture. Describe the nucleus and cytoplasm of a monoblast. Look at it. It has a round to oval slight with a slight indentation, and then there's fine chromatin granules or chromatin pattern. Alright, fine ang pattern niya. Look at the cytoplasm, it's blue. Alright, or to be specific, it's light blue. Okay, this is again a case from HematologyOutlines.com. I don't take credit from this one. I would like to thank HematologyOutlines.com for giving me this particular slide, so we don't get so this YouTube video wouldn't be flagged. Okay, so promonocyte. A promonocyte is going to fall around 14 to 18 micrometers. So sabi niyo, sir, babanat na naman si Adrian sa akin yan. Sir, why are you lying? I thought earlier you said the cells get smaller when they go and become more mature cells. What happened here? Why is this one 14 to 18 micra? Well, monocytes are the exception, of course, because they're already large by nature, and they actually get smaller as they mature. All right, and they actually get larger when they mature. Why? How can I say that? From 12 micra, it becomes 14 micra. Well, actually, this is just what happens when they do a research, and most of the time when they look at monocytes, the average size range is somewhere around these things. So will this be asked in the exam? I didn't highlight it, so therefore it's not usually asked in the exam. But for my exams, probably yeah. Okay, nucleus to cytoplasm ratio is 3 to 2 is to 1. 2 to 3 is to 1, and nucleoli there may be or one present there, may not be present. Now the nucleus to cytoplasm, the nucleus and the cytoplasm of a promonocyte is as follows. The nucleus looks oval and irregularly indented unless prominent nucleoli is present. Okay? The cytoplasm, it contains blue vacuoles, alright? It has vacuolation, and there's a slight appearance of azurophilic granules. What are azurophilic granules? They're blue, right? The bluish tinge that you see there, that's basically for azurophilic. That's considered as your azurophilic granules. Alright? So do we have azurophilic granules here? Yes. Look at the outline of the cell on the other side. This is actually a promonocyte as well. Alright? These are all from, again, hematologyoutlines.com. We are thankful that they have photos for these things. It's very hard for us to find this, but fortunately for you guys, you have a copy of this one. Right? Now, let's talk about the monocyte. Now, monocyte size is 14 to 20. So, sir, why are you lying to us, sir? Babalat na naman si ano. Why do you lie so much, sir? So I'm explaining why I'm lying, Adrian. So you're going to ask me again in that specific accent. But that's basically the deal of the spiel of monocytes. They have an inconsistent size range. Alright? So siya yung pinakamakulit sa lahat. Alright? Now, the term used to describe the appearance of the cytoplasm of the monocyte is known as ground glass appearance. This bluish gray. Right? What do you mean by ground glass appearance? Tagalogin ko na lang. Parang dinikdik na bubog. Alam niyo yun yung pag may nakita kayong nabasag na salamin, yun yung itsura niya. So tama nga naman, parang ground glass talaga. So again, thank you so much, hematologyoutlines.com, for giving us this copy of the picture. Alright? So ground glass ang appearance niya. Now, which terms are often used to describe the appearance of a monocyte? It's kidney bean shaped. It forms brain-like convolutions, and it's oftentimes folded. All right? Has a horseshoe-shaped appearance. Horseshoe-shaped appearance, okay? Basically, that's it. Those are the usual appearances. And lymphopoiesis is going to be discussed in a different topic. That's the end of our lecture for maturation series. All right? Any questions? I answered Adrian's questions. Maybe you guys have questions before we continue. Anybody? Pag wala kayong tanong, ako magtatanong. You can ask me questions if you want to before we move on. How much time do we have, guys?
2 hours and 15 minutes po.
2 hours and 15 minutes. All right, so I'll give you guys a break for now. Okay? Would 45 minutes be okay? Or do you guys want to learn some more? They have a lot of slides here. I have a lot of what they call this of slides, PowerPoint presentations. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to prepare the next set of slides before your break. I'll put also the timer on the monitor. Has the